It's Sunday, November 13th, 2022. I'm watching Bill Maher, which is S20E34. It's HBO special. Um, this particular piece, he has an interesting opening act about the election the midterm that just took place. Um, I'm just chasing some of his one-liners. He says something about John Fetterman and the airline lost his luggage based on his attire, being that Mehmet Oz is so well groomed, I suppose you could say. Then he mentioned something about Arizona being the place your father retires to, and his first wife goes to die. And then he goes to Nevada to find his second wife. I think these jokes are in really poor taste, based on ARI and zone, ZON for A. Then at 4.50, which it has the 45 in there, which to me, at this point, for this one purpose, seems to be Trump related or point like an arrow pointing towards that. And he says, where woke goes to die. These are really frightening, almost like social media jargon that ties back to things that I've been plagued with living in New York and having that special trip to Florida with Dan. Now, interestingly enough, in front of the study hall professor, which was Mr. Healy, that's the name that he gave, and it was on the name on my schedule. He called himself Mr. Healy. There were two people in the classroom around the same time driver's ed was introduced on the campus of Cold Spring Harbor High School. And I was asked if I had to choose between the two older boys that were in the study hall with me, who would I choose? And I chose. But my election was not upheld. For some reason, the other alternative is the one who called on the blue phone and invited me to Florida. But that is not who I wanted. It's not who I wanted to date. It was not who I wanted to ever marry or have children with. But the other option, the one that I actually elected for, whoever that might be at Brady Bunch, that look is what I wanted to carry forward with and was not honored in any way. And it seems has gotten steadily more dangerous for me here in New York for whatever reason. Then they go into some nocturnal omission about Trump with all sorts of explicit things about how he has all of these books, none of which I've ever read, explaining like every intimate detail of whatever, but they still haven't gotten to the heart of who he is. And then they use an explicit word, intimating that it has some intimate relationship of some sort, which again, in other communities, I would be afraid would get totally misconstrued. But again, that's what it seems like they do to spark a powder keg. But real people do get hurt, which is really frightening. So I'm then this morning on the CBS News at 6 a.m., they had on this story about this person named John, John, in New York City, who was found dead. And it was almost like a kidnapping and someone drugged him, but he wound up dead. So again, it's more messaging. I see that it's happening to others. It's happened in my life frame, not necessarily to the point or extent of what happened to this particular kid. But again, it kind of all ties in with some kind of fabric to what I've experienced while here in New York. But like not knowing where to go or who to speak with, who to trust, who's even safe, considering my teenage election of who I would be accepting to have children with was totally disregarded. Um, so, um, so I'm gonna play out the piece. Now, I find it interesting who he has on for this very explicit nocturnal omission. And nocturnal is the only time I've ever heard that word used is with animals in the wild and the animals that come out at night. So I'm going to play the explicit piece from the end of the show, which seems to be the most concerning and painted a very, verbal burlesque, perhaps, is the way to say it. It's not something I would normally watch if I wasn't chasing for answers. But it does speak to the mindset of some of these, I don't know, image consultants, campaign artists, broad stroke of a larger problem that's going on, and then keeping certain lines within line for control of keeping foreign out and from meddling with politics, coin purse, bloodline, the children, the future, and how textbook goes, since now they've taken textbook away. And I don't know how they're going to steer the future without textbook standards.
Working on the case of Brooklyn fugitive Koshan Burton coincidentally bumped into him and arrested him while vacationing at Florida's Disney World. He has to please tell us that as he slapped on the cuffs, he said, "It's a small world after all."
And that says mouse arrest.
Let Black Adam out of the theaters before you bring out Black Panther. I mean, Republicans are scared enough.
And again, the mayor of New York City right now is named Mayor Adams. Just saying, for coincidences that just seem to fall on a holiday or a campaign schedule of some sort.
Last year it was Black Widow, Black Friday, Blackest Night, and Meet the Blacks too. The year before.
And again, it seems to speak to this thematic of nocturnal.
Before it was Black Bird, Black Box, Black Beauty, Black Bear, Black is King, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and today, they released a movie called Is That Black Enough for You? Yes, it's a great time to be a black actor and a terrible time to own a movie theater in Idaho. And finally, new rule, someone needs to explain to me how there have been Over 1,200 books written about the Trump presidency. Books that were mostly competing to reveal every detail of his life. And not one of them tells me the one thing I'm most curious about. Who is Donald Trump fucking? He's fucking somebody. And it's not Melania, and it's not nobody. He's a dog and always has been, and I doubt that went away after he became the most powerful man in the world. How is it possible? I don't have the answer to this question. Who is blowing Donald Trump? How could it be that if you read every page of Fire and Fury, Confidence Man, Team of Vipers, A Very Stable Genius, Betrayal, Disloyal, Revenge, Unhinged, Rage, Fear, Peril, Blitz, Full Disclosure, The Divider, and The Room Where It Happened, you'd still have no idea what happened in the room. We know everything else about the guy down to the most minute detail because everyone around him has the loyalty of a pet scorpion. All White Houses are a bit of a sieve, but the Trump White House leaked more than Nick Cannon's condoms. Well, we know he cuts his own hair with giant scissors. We know he listens to show tunes to calm down. We know he gets
Giant scissors, as in the New York Giants? I'm just curious.
2 scoops of ice cream and everybody else gets 1. We know he tweets on the toilet and throws documents down the toilet. We know he cheats at golf, was once caught eating paper, doesn't like dogs, is a germaphobe, uses a tanning bed, once cashed a check for 13 cents, has his pants steamed while wearing them, sleeps 4 hours a night, and hesitated to give Don
A check for 13 cents.
Don Jr. his name because what if he's a loser? We even know that his penis is shaped like a mushroom. How is it possible we don't know who is servicing it? And don't tell me it's nobody. He's on tape bragging that when you're a star, you can do anything you want. Okay, that guy didn't just go away. Alpha dogs never die. Never. Anthony Quinn had a baby out of wedlock at 78. His wife was very mad at him, and then he did it again at 81. Italy's lecherous old Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi was having bunga parties in his 70s. Do you think Donald Trump just one day said, yeah, sex was fun, but I think I'll switch to building ships in a bottle? And again, we know it's not Melania. Please, please, it's just not. She won't even give him hand. No. She hates him, and he's made it plain he's not into women her age. To him, she's a mild, a mom I'd like to divorce. Do they even live together? Is she alive? He seems to live completely as a single man. Still alpha, still crazy, and I bet still horny. It doesn't add up. Someone or some team of people... Lindsey Graham could be involved. Someone is blowing Donald Trump, and it's a scandal. We don't know what the scandal is. We certainly know all about his past sex life, the cheating, the groping, the walking into the dressing room at beauty pageants, hot for daughter, telling 10-year-olds he'll be dating them in 10 years, the parties with Epstein, the grabbing pussies, the porn star mistress, everything. And then the historical record goes blank. What happened? Why can't we unearth his bone? Not even anything from the last 2 years when he's at Mar-a-Lago? He lives at a country club with hundreds of people coming and going. He wouldn't even have to fake how the groupies got in. And they must get in. He's a man who lives to be adored. And Florida is full of thousands of unhinged MAGA sluts who see him as sent by God to save America. And it's well known evangelical chicks are the freakiest. Cult leaders get laid. There is no way this is not happening. Who is blowing Donald Trump? I have to know this. I have a right to know this. It's not like these are the days of JFK when the media covered up indiscretions for the sake of the country. Oh, right, the media has too much class to blab. This would get the most clicks ever. Twitter would be so lit up, Elon would have to hire back all the employees. I mean, I don't count on the news media for much anymore, but I do expect them to tell me who's fucking who. Unless, no, it couldn't be. Unless the answer, Donald, is you just can't. I remember you once guaranteed that there was no problem.
I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
Well, maybe there is. Maybe there is a problem, in which case I feel for you. No, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to bait you into a response to prove your dick worked. Maybe it does, it's possible theoretically, but really, there's no other explanation how a cult leader with hundreds of willing groupies who's not restrained by his wife, by his options, or by morals could not be having sex with anyone. I wouldn't be surprised if you nicknamed your penis Mike Pence.
Interesting cat call. Nickname.
Because it's not hung like it should be. Anyway, Donald, I know you're thinking about running again, so I just want to say good luck with the campaign, and now that your own party thinks of you as a loser, remember, no one wants a limp dick in the White House. All right, that's our show. I'll be at the Hulu in Madison.
Now here's the beginning.
The ads anymore. I haven't had a text from Joe Biden in 3 days. I feel like he's ghosted me. But hey, how about the American people? I didn't have faith. They proved me wrong. Never so glad. At the end of the day, you know what? Democracy, I think they look at it like the catalytic converter. You know, they're not quite sure what it is, but they know it would be bad if it got stolen. You know,
I should make a point to say that in New York City right now, catalytic converters are being stolen from the vehicles on the streets out of nowhere all of a sudden, and I think they have some kind of special process where you can actually inscribe something on it, so if it gets stolen and they can track it.
But of course, because this is America, we still don't really know who won. I turned on CNN today. It was like, it's the name of every show was Election Night 2022. It's Friday. It's Friday. Election night is still going on. Yes, Arizona, Nevada. Arizona, where your dad retires and your mom dies. And Nevada, where he finds wife number 2. That's where the balance is. Also, Georgia. Georgia's going to be a runoff. Herschel Walker's very excited. Well, he's already raised like $3.5 million for the runoff. He said he wants to make sure that he gets a first term, unlike most of his children.
You know, interesting enough, my one of my sons last night, well, 3 of my sons last night came to visit. My one son brought up a name I haven't heard since the 1990s. He brought up John Price. I'm like, where is that name coming from? And then it led down a tunnel of a whole lot of other names. And I'm like, no, it's just weird. I was like, because again, on the old Grumman complex, it had been abandoned, retired and abandoned. But there was someone my age that showed up one night. That's St. Dominic's tie-in reference, although we were off the St. Dominic's campus, but it was the people that went to that school or institution or whatever with me during the day that were present on the field, along with some of the local public school children from the area that I was in at the moment.
Hi.
Good morning.
Well, and also a big race that people watch, Pennsylvania. Anybody from Pennsylvania? This was a big one. Shameful applause. Well, John Fetterman pulled it out there. He had his problems. I see this as a victory of substance over style. He was running against Dr. Oz, who's a very dapper, media-savvy heart surgeon, and he lost to a guy who dresses like the airline lost his luggage. Also, a lot of firsts this time. First, Gen Z in Congress. Wow, 25-year-old in Congress. Also, the first congressperson who ran because of a TikTok challenge. And the first victory party in his parents' basement. These are firsts. Of course, now the big winner on the Republican side is the Florida governor. DeSantis won by 20 points down there. Even won Blue Dade County, Miami. Wow, won Latinos. Well, sure, when you give away free trips to Martha's Vineyard, you know. But also, I think, you know, DeSantis had a motto. I think it resonated with a lot of people, and his motto was, "Where Florida is where woke goes to die."
And that, just prior to that joke, is 4.50.
Of course, Florida is where everybody goes to die. So, what?
And then this morning they had on this piece, because again, I'm not in trying to not feel like you're crazy. Sometimes you look to signs in the local environment, like, is it just me? Was I specific target? Was it something that happens to other people? Because it's not something I hear about or that's spoken about. And then to construct how these people going through a similar event or slightly similar have some tick marks of semblance of reality, like where do they go for help? So I'm going to cue that up real quick. So today's Sunday, November 13th, 2022.
The NYPD is investigating a series of robberies and assaults against men in Hell's Kitchen. CBS 2's Ali Bauman spoke with one mother who believes her son was drugged, robbed, and left for dead.
John was an exceptional human being that was just a...
Now, there are undertones here that have no relevance to my story whatsoever, but the fact of that it happened to this man, just, I know it's theoretically more possible that that's what happened in like my teenage years, with just I'm in a place with like no answers, so
a bright light that ever since he was a child was like a sunbeam.
It's been 5 months since Linda Clary lost her son, 33-year-old John Umberger. The D.C. political consultant came to New York on business in May. Days later, police found him dead inside the East 61st Street apartment where he had been staying, his cell phone gone, and his wallet cleared.
Wallet had been emptied of him, the credit cards, debit cards, and driver's license.
Umberger's mother says police have surveillance video from days earlier, which shows her son leaving the Q, a popular nightclub for gay men in Hell's Kitchen.
It's the same thing with Julio's case in that you have John is sandwiched between two people in the backseat of a car.
Julio is 25-year-old Julio Ramirez. He was found dead in the back of a taxi 5 weeks before Umberger and was last seen leaving a different gay bar in Hell's Kitchen with 3 unidentified men.
I don't know who those people are. You know, his friends don't know who those people are.
Ramirez was also found without a phone and with fraudulent charges on his credit card.
Somebody drugged him to take his phone to rob him.
Police sources tell us that both Ramirez and Umberger's deaths are suspected to be overdose related. The medical examiner, though, has not determined the official causes yet. Sources tell us they're waiting on toxicology results to determine which drugs, if any, were in their systems.
I know he was drugged. I also know that there are 14 other cases where the young men involved lived.
NYPD homicide squads are now working with the district attorney's office to investigate several other incidents of robberies and assaults against members of the LGBTQ community, saying it is also believed that the motivation for these assault robberies is monetary gain.
I hope that eventually these people are caught and held accountable for their actions, and that as a community we are protecting one another because we always have to.
You just don't want it to happen to anybody else.
Authorities are asking anyone with information or who may be a victim themselves to contact police. In Hell's Kitchen, Ali Bauman, CBS 2 News. Police in New Jersey are investigating.
So it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.